Hello, I'm Henry, and I read a book. I read this book, More Flanimals by Ricky Gervais and illustrated by Rob Steen, and I would like to talk about it, please. Speculative biology is both art and science. It is literally art, being drawings of creatures, animals, and life forms created by an artist/illustrator. A lot of the time, speculative biology projects sink or swim based on the quality of the art alone. The ideas could be amazing and well thought out and logical and fit together perfectly, but if the art's bad, a lot of people won't even give it the time of day, and vice versa. The ideas could make no sense with no effort at all put into the biology of this world that you are creating. But if the art's great, people will still be drawn to it. That being said, the biology of it, the field of science, is still incredibly important. The quality of the ideas, the thought put into them, how well they fit together, it all gives the project as a whole staying power. There are thousands of people out there capable of producing amazing art, but they need to be combined with interesting, unique, and serious ideas for their art to remain in the zeitgeist, to find a foothold in culture. Obviously, this is just looking at the narrow field of speculative biology. Obviously, singular works of art can last forever, and rightly so. In the case here, with the Flanimal series, both the art and the science are absolutely nailed. Rob Steen nails the illustrations, and surprisingly, Ricky Gervais nails the biology. They nail it to such an extent that if this was released today with the internet being the way it is and not in the early 2000s, I have a feeling it would be everywhere. There would be memes, there would be Netflix original series, there would be video games. Oh, Spore is actually kind of a lot like this. There would be movies, there would be hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos breaking down every single aspect of its world. Fortunately for me though, this wasn't released today. It was released back in the early 2000s, so I don't feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Just for a quick refresher, Flanimals are a bunch of nonsense fictional creatures. The book series is a brilliant little bit of fun, not to be taken seriously in any way, shape or form. However, if you do take it seriously, we discovered in the last video that maybe these creatures aren't quite as nonsense as Ricky Gervais initially intended. We looked at the original set of Flanimals, and despite it being gobbledygook of the highest order, more of them made sense and could survive than did not and would not. Flanimals is actually quite a solid bit of speculative biology, which is why I said Ricky Gervais surprisingly nailed the science in the overview. Don't think it was his intention, but he did so nonetheless. More Flanimals expands massively on the Foundation's Flanimals set. It expands on it so massively that I think Ricky Gervais's intentions might have changed. This is still inarguably a comedy book. I mean, look at it, made by an incredibly funny and incredibly weird chap, but the speculative biology really does step up here. I think Ricky Gervais might be taking this a little bit more seriously now. We get variations on Flanimals previously introduced, with the puggled hump dumpler, the squeebless hump dumpler, and the flap toggled hump dumpler being variants on the frappled hump dumpler, and with the sprot tumbler, the sprot ogler, and the sprot mungler being variations on the sprot guzzler. We get mentions of rarity and behaviour when regarding the sprot mungler specifically, and how it passes itself off as the sprot ogler. We get Flanimal evolution. We get primitive primordial life in the form of splawn, globs of gumption, and living schnurb, and evolutionary trees, showing how these creatures are related to each other and what became what, both pictorially and in detail. And of course, because this is Ricky Gervais, it's all iced with a nice little bit of snide atheism. We get Flanimal fossils, and with them, and the evolutionary trees, confirmation that certain Flanimals have died out. The example here being the Plondonculus. Plondonculus. The example here being the Plondonculus. The example here being the Plondonculus. Good enough. We even get Flanimal anatomy with layered anatomical diagrams. This is despite all these Crazy names, some serious naturalism going on here. And genuinely, no word of a lie, significantly more detail and consideration than some 100% serious speculative biology projects out there. This is bordering on the hard world building of a high fantasy novel. It's amazing. This book doesn't just expand on the detail of the speculative biology though, it also adds a bunch of whole new Flanimals. In the last Flanimal video, we didn't just look at the ideas and concepts as a whole. We also looked at each individual Flanimal in detail to decide whether each of them could actually survive, or if they were just so nonsense they could not function. We did this by assigning each one of them a tier. Those tiers being yes, they would survive, maybe they could survive, and no, they would not survive. The previous totals were 11 yeses, 4 maybes, and 10 nos. So with a whole bunch of new Flanimals, let's add to those totals. The Squunt. Its eyes are on the inside of its mouth, but it's scared of the dark, so it has to keep its mouth open at all times. But other Flanimals though only seem to want to poke it in the eye, so this is a yes. The Plapavom, one of the very few Flanimals specifically stated to live for a very long time. So this is a yes. It can't eat, so it dissolves itself, but does so very slowly. The Fud Dumpton. The Cover Athlete, one of the ones with a classic utter nonsense description. This Romungular quack stumbling looks like the most rasbungled one-bligger ever. It is actually quite cerebettal and aspiculous in its furripping, which proves you should never go on appearances. Nothing there saying it wouldn't survive. Yes, the Gromomulant, said to be the larval stage of a muntfly, something we haven't come across yet. However, when it reaches adulthood, its eyes fall off and it sheds its skin so its insides seep out. This is a no, and probably why we haven't come across the muntfly yet. The Hirosi Harassi, the fastest Flanimal and one of the smallest, can get up to 50 miles an hour, so this is absolutely a yes. The Edgar, from the fastest Flanimal to the slowest. It can only go at 1 mile a day, but that's still faster than real world slugs who go at 0.72 miles a day. Slugs survive, so the Edgar could survive too. Yes, the Dweezil Muzzbug wants to fly, so sheds its legs, then immediately dies screaming in agony. This is a very unpleasant no. The Verminal Pasquirm pokes its head around things and over things. No one knows what its body looks like, but that doesn't stop it surviving. Yes, the Hordery Pasquirm. The P is not silent, specifically stated. And because it's so similar to the Verminal Pasquirm, we'll give this one a yes to. The Squat, the angriest Flanimal in the universe, attacking absolutely everything it sees. This might sound like it would get it into trouble, but I would beg to differ. We get something in this book that I actually asked for in the last video. We get stats. Oh yeah. We get the stats of the adult Manimbler, introed in the last book, and the Squat, who are both stated to be the hardest two Flanimals in existence. The adult Manimbler has a stat total of 35, and the Squat has a stat total of 35 at the minimum. Its aggression is stated to be more than 10. If it's taken to be 11, then its stat total is 35. But if it's 12 or higher, then its total will be higher than the adult Manimblers. So it's pretty safe to say that whatever the Squat come across it could take. This is a yes. The Mung Ungler. Not sure if I can show this. Flanimals come from all over to drink from its udders. It doesn't like this, but it does no harm. Yes, the Pong Flibber. Very similar to the Cuddle Flop from the first video. It has a terrible defense mechanism, but if it doesn't need to use it, it will be fine. Yes, the Wheezy Tong Nambler. It is so repulsive and pathetic that other Flanimals are compelled to squash it. This is very much a no. The Prug Fuggle, another one with pure nonsense, but no nonsense that hampers its survivability. Yes, the Gronglet specifically eats food that is too small to give it the sustenance it needs. No. The Spleg, related to the Gronglet, but slightly bigger, meaning it can stave off death for 1 more day. Still a no. The Swog Monglet. This one's a maybe based on the contradicting information we have on it. It pulled itself out of the primordial ooze and has lived for millions of years, but it's too fat and lazy to do anything. This doesn't make sense. It's almost as if taking literal nonsense and trying to make it make sense is a stupid thing to do. And that's all the Flanimals in this book. So let's total that up. 11 yeses again, 1 maybe, and 5 nos. Bringing our totals up to 22 yeses, 5 maybes, and 15 nos. Look at that! Despite this being a nonsense comedy book not to be taken seriously at all, when you do take it seriously, even more of these nonsense creatures make sense than don't. I know we're not done here yet, but I think this goes to show that Ricky Gervais is actually really good at this whole speculative biology thing. As far as fleshing out the world of the Flanimals goes, something that is also done in speculative biology projects, we didn't get much in the previous book. We got mention of a desert and some kind of Flanimal recycling plant, which only really gave us more questions. Questions I hope we can answer with the new information in this book. Right, what do we get here? We don't get any specific mentions of anything other than the swab monglet pulling itself out of the primordial sloob. So that sloob could be something, but it happened millions of years ago, so probably isn't anything anymore. What we do get in this book is a story. Yes, there is a short story at the end of the book about an epic adventure of a young blunging. And this story is a treasure trove of world building. We get mention of the Sea of Night, the Dark Forest, and the Black Mountain. That is 3 more distinct biomes we can add to this world, on top of the Guddle Desert from the previous book. We even get a brief look at this Sea of Night here, and confirmation that the frappled hump dumpler can move across water. That means there are at least partially aquatic Flanimals out there. We don't get any information on the Black Mountain, or any Flanimals that live there, but its presence indicates plate tectonics exist in the Flanimal world. Dark Forest is a different matter though. There are said to be Flanimals in it so hideous and scary that just looking at them kills you. Fortunately, because it is a dark forest, you can't actually see them. We do get a look at one of its residents though, the Gumnubbly Nunk Nunk. This is not a Flanimal that gets its own entry in the Spotter's Guide section, something that it shares with a bunch of other Flanimals in other sections of the book, mainly in those evolutionary trees, like the Gurnloid or the Scragvalve, or the Grenbeland and the Nurdleploid, or the Drubmipe and the Scrabs, or the Nubsprunt and the Anchor, just to name a few. This implies, and basically confirms, that the Flanimal's world is far larger than the look we are getting at it here. A very clever and subtle world building trick. Imply size if you don't want to break flow by showing size. So this world is definitely getting fleshed out here, and given the name of the next book, I feel some more fleshing out is on the horizon, especially regarding that Sea of Night. Now, just to give my quick thoughts on this book. Again, I normally do this at the top of the video, but I think it works better down here. As a follow-up to Flanimals, I don't think it could get much better than this. The nonsense fun, the hilariously dark bleakness, the creature designs all continue to impress. And despite it fleshing out the world so much, it's still a breezy length. It is short, sweet, and because of the new sections introduced in this book, it is varied and covers a whole lot of ground. So yeah, another brilliantly fun little book. With more Flanimals, Ricky Gervais and Rob Steen have absolutely proved themselves as top tier speculative biologists. Seriously. I said in my last video that Flanimals is something that a channel like The Curious Archive might cover on an April Fool's Day video, but now I'm not so sure about that. I genuinely think there's enough care and thought put into these creatures and their world that a speculative biology YouTube channel could cover them 100% seriously. Hello, thanks a lot for getting to the end of the video. Like and subscribe. This one almost didn't come out today because of a save as situation, so I think we should all just take a moment to thank Premiere Pro's autosave function. I'll see you in 2 weeks for another movie video. Cheers.